Rob from the Internet talks about beer. Every episode will showcase a beer style, discussing its history, its makeup, and flavor profile. We'll also give our opinions on the style and give a good example of that style.
Hello and welcome to Rob from the Internet Talks About Beer, a show where we discuss different styles of beer, their history, and flavor profiles. I'm Rob from the Internet. Let's talk about beer. All right, so joining me today is Mike Doble, proprietor of the Exploruim Brew Pub in Greendale and a second location in the 3rd Ward of Milwaukee, correct?
That's me. I'm here.
All right, so Mike, if you would, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name's Mike Doble. I own a couple brew pubs here in Milwaukee. One is very close to downtown. One is out in the suburbs in the southwest side, and we make a wide variety of beers. If you're watching video, you can see that we have a bunch of taps on the wall. I'm at our 3rd Ward location right now, which is in a cool old historic building, and yeah, no, we're a full service brew pub. So what that means is we have obviously a bunch of beer. We have full liquor menu, wine, so wine and spirits, and then a full food menu. And my brand really focuses on hospitality more than anything else. So we're not making a ton of beer to sell in the market and mass producing, massive quantities of packaged product and focusing on that sort of production. We focus more on hospitality and the hospitality side of the business. And why? It's because that's what I enjoy. I enjoy selling beer over the bar because the margins are better, and I enjoy people, and I enjoy people coming in and talking about beer, and that's why I love doing stuff like this, Rob. This is great, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And I can say from experience that both the beer and the food at the Exploruim Brew Pub are fantastic. If you ever get the chance, hit up their location and order the Moab. It's the mother of all burgers, man. This thing is a monster. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's my favorite. Um, and I don't think I've ever had bad food there. They make fantastic pizza. They have tons of limited release beers. They have at the Greendale location, they have 24 taps inside?
Yeah, we have 24 beers on tap, and I actually did the same thing at the 3rd Ward location. We have 24 beers all the time on tap, and those range from super light. And actually, these days our super light is seltzer. We have a real light seltzer, about 5%, and we have light lagers and Kolsch and Hefeweizen all the way up in the light range, but then all the way up to big 12.5% barley wine, barrel aged beers. We have a barrel aged chocolate chili stout on right now, which is just fantastic. It's we took a big stout, aged it in barrels that aged red pepper chilies, so it's got some spice to it. We tried to balance it out with a little bit of sweetness, and then we added chocolate to it, so it's like chocolate and chili.
Nice.
If you ever had like a hot chocolate chili chocolate bar, that's like exactly what it is. It's awesome.
Yeah,
So big variety.
I can say that your barley wine is one of my favorite barley wines of all time. It's always spot on in the flavor profile. So
yeah, and I'm pushing to keep that on tap more and more, even in the summertime. We have a lot of fans of that barley wine, and it's funny because when you first open, you make all these beers, you make all the beers you want to make, and it's like, oh, I got all my beers on tap. Well, some of them sell faster than others, and one of the weird things is that you get this impression, and I got this impression of a barley wine. Well, not many people want to drink a barley wine. Well, the reality is I found that people just hadn't found the barley wine yet, because we just recently put it on tap after about a 18-month hiatus, and people are crushing it. They love it.
Yeah, barley wine is one of those ones that you have to be in the mood for a heavy hitter, because it's never going to be a light beer ever. It's it falls squarely into the category that would be more like a winter warmer. But
Absolutely.
I enjoy those things year round. I mean, I have an imperial stout on tap here in the garage that comes in at about 10%, and that's my summer beer.
Nice. Nice.
All
Yeah,
right.
but you put the miles on, so you earn those calories.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So today we're going to be discussing hazy IPAs, often
Yep.
called New England style IPA. So for people who might not know, New England slash hazy IPAs, or juicy IPAs, as some people call them, are a style that was actually credited being invented by John Kimmich from The Alchemists. The first beer that came out that was this style was called Heady Topper. Came out in and around 2004. It's pretty popular style these days. A lot of IPA purists don't really consider it an IPA because it doesn't have that malty backbone that the British IPAs typically do, and it tends to be unfiltered, which makes it hazy. Um, and they tend to have extremely low bitterness, and I assume that anything that you guys are brewing would have low bitterness as well.
Yeah, no, it certainly is, and it's a little to me. Putting it in the IPA category was super brilliant because hoppy Hefeweizen probably was not the right moniker for it.
Right, right.
Um, it it definitely has more of an IPA feel to the beer. But I describe them when people see me drinking this, because it is one of my favorite styles to drink. Yeah, very drinkable, low bitterness. And because it's low bitterness, it's almost a little sweet, perceived sweet. It's not sweet, but perceived that way. Just because we're so used to drinking like really hoppy IPAs, and that bitterness kind of just is, totally wrecks, anything we would consider sweet. But I'm drinking a beer called Lost in the Sauce. This is our version of the hazy IPA. Um,
And it's
and I describe
fantastic.
it, it is probably I mean, it's funny because people always ask me what my favorite beer is on tap, and that really is like trying to pick a favorite kid. Um, we all have our favorite kid, but we don't want to admit it. Um, that's not entirely true, but um, I have like 4 or 5 beers that are kind of my go-to, depending on my mood. If it's daytime, summertime, I am always grabbing this. If it's winter time, winter warmer, I'm always going to grab barley wine or Scotch ale. And then actually late summer, early fall, I go to the dark beers. I love stouts and porters, and we have a coconut porter that's really really great. That's kind of the one I go to, and then a double IPA. So I have this very narrow range of beers that I usually drink, but the hazy style IPA, the New England IPA, I can see why it's so popular, because people that generally might have been turned off by drinking an IPA because of the bitterness, um, they try this and they're almost tricked into thinking it's going to be bitter because it's has IPA in the name, and they drink it and they're so pleasantly surprised that it becomes their new favorite beer, and so it becomes very very popular very quickly. And it's actually very surprising to me that it took so long for Heady Topper to catch on. From 2004, really, the hazy IPA craze really didn't start hitting hard until 2014, 2013, 2014 is when you really saw this massive increase. And pretty much, if you were going to be a brewery and you wanted people to visit and drink your beer, you had to have a hazy IPA.
Right.
I opened this brewery in 2017, and we did not brew a hazy for about the first 6 7 months. And actually, we did several test batches, and it was tough. It was tough to get a persistent opaque haze in the beer. And I'm trying to hold this up to the camera, and hopefully your peeps can see it. This has a nice heavy haze to it, but we try not to make it milkshake thick.
Right.
I have had some New England styles that are just super milkshake thick, which to me is just not real pleasant to drink. But we try to check all the boxes as far as high hop, very high hop nose to it, nice, soft, pleasant body, and a very persistent haze. You'll never see through this beer unless you put it in the most narrow of glassware. So.
Right. So the way I tend to explain the hazy IPAs to people is they're beers that look like juice. They smell like a funky fruit salad infused with a little bit of dank weed.
That's a good way to put it.
And they taste like a fruit cobbler for the most part, because you get a lot of different
Yeah.
fruit flavors in them. And then I always say that the New England style IPA is the IPA for people who say I don't like IPAs.
Exactly.
Because
it's
yeah,
you're right. You're 100%.
Yeah, because they're not a traditional IPA. So and for the longest time I hated IPAs because everybody was trying to outbitter and out hop everybody else.
Yep.
I love an old school single trick pony British IPA. And I have to say, I also enjoy a lot of the New England style ones because you get a lot of really good fruit variations for the flavors. You get people doing it with like mango and grapefruit and just whatever. I mean, just all sorts of stuff and peaches and
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the modern hops are being developed to support the New England style IPAs in that, they have a lot of melon and peach and mango, generally characterized as stone fruit. But I think stone fruit's a cop out. Any guy that can't pick out a flavor calls it stone fruit. But, stone fruits being, apricot and peach and mango and, those types of fruits, which all, taste surprisingly similar. And a lot of the new hops coming out are actually being developed to enhance those flavors versus the very resiny, piney, citrus, heavily citrus, bitter citrus type flavors. And so yeah, so I mean, it's kind of interesting to me to see how New England style IPAs have actually started shaping the way that hop research and development is going.
Yeah.
It used to be that, we were trying to get noble hops to be modified to reduce some of the less than pleasant characteristics like earthiness. There's a use for earthiness, but you don't always want earthiness in a beer. So they basically created hybrids to get rid of some of the earthiness and bring out a little more of the clean pine flavor. And now it's totally gone into the direction of, all of the experimental new hops I see coming out are all going towards the melon and tropical fruit and peach and apricot and more towards that, stone fruit and tropical flavors sort of direction. That's probably about 80% of the new hops coming out. That's what you see.
Right. So let's step back just a little bit. How did you get into craft beer and brewing?
Well, my family is pretty much as we sit here today. I have three brothers. One of them was really the impetus behind all of us getting into beer. My brother Johnny, in the probably the late '80s, he started homebrewing, and eventually convinced my parents to open my dad retired from the Army and was looking for something to do, and eventually convinced them to go into business with him and open a homebrew store. So they've been homebrewing for a long, long time. And when I was in college, my folks had this homebrew store and they didn't have any money. So they just sent me homebrew kits. Well, my other two brothers got the same thing, So we all got homebrew kits and we learned how to homebrew because that's what, our folks were sending us. And then eventually my brother Johnny convinced my mom and dad to go to open up a brewery, a brew pub. And, his whole philosophy is that, hey, we have this homebrew store. We teach all these people to brew. And, there's 30% of the people that eventually will learn the tricks of the trade and become kick-ass brewers. There's 30% that will always just be home brewers that, just make kind of acceptable homebrew. And then there's 30% of people that just suck at brewing because they don't want to learn it. And let's just open a pub for that 30%. So they stopped homebrewing and stopped trying to poison me with the shit they're putting in bottles. And so that was the whole impetus behind them creating Tampa Bay Brewing Company down in Tampa, Florida. Fast forward 20 some years that they've been open. My younger brother David runs Tampa Bay Brewing Company. My older brother Mark runs Aviator Brewing Company in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I have 2 brew pubs here in the Milwaukee area. Our brother Johnny passed away in an accident in 2003, but his legacy lives on super strong with all of our breweries and all of the beers we're making. Combined total between the 3 breweries, we're making over 50,000 barrels a year. My contribution being the much smallest portion of that. But I like to think that we make the smallest amount, but the best.
So what you're saying is you're the underachiever of the brewing family.
Yes, absolutely. The underachiever volume wise, but I probably drink more.
All right. So you said you're drinking Lost in the Sauce.
Yes.
Now are you still doing versioning on that one? So like before I moved to Canada, you were doing like you were on like Lost in the Sauce version 4 or version 5, I think it was. So are you still following the versioning, or?
We've kind of gotten away from the version aspect of it. We did a series of experimental batches where we did like batch 1, 2, and 3, and they were all very similar, but slightly different grain bills, slightly different hop application rates and slightly different hopping techniques versus hot, basically adding it to the end of boil or hop bursting or low temperature hop additions, and then we dry hopped at different rates, and we did these different batches. We settled on one base recipe, and then we started doing different versions of those base recipes, and we did like a whole series like V1 through V8. V8 had to be red because it's V8, right? So we added, of course. So it was the first one we added fruit to make it red, and that was pretty cool. But the real traditional New England style IPA drinkers, and I say traditional in the loosest sense of the word, because it's usually some of the youngest drinkers that we have are going for the New England styles. But they reacted negatively to fruit being in the New England style because it wasn't a milkshake style. The milkshake style is super popular, lots of lactose, lots of fruit, basically in a New England style IPA, but we didn't do it that way. So we kind of got away from that whole thing. We put it behind us, and we settled on one of our versions of Lost in the Sauce that we were producing, and that became what we call our base Lost in the Sauce. It's on tap all the time. It's basically Citra Hop Mota Equa based New England IPA. So then what we do now is, for the different versions, we actually always put out a version called VX. X standing for experimental, and so every other month or so we brew a batch of VX, and we use a different hop in that beer. So and we try to highlight a single hop. So whether it's Nelson Sauvin, we did an HBC 431, which is an experimental tropical fruit type hop. We've done all kinds of different versions. So people kind of look for our VX because it's the newest, the latest, that we use new hops in it. It's really cool. But then we have the purists who just like to drink the base Lost in the Sauce, which we just call Litz, and that's what I'm drinking right now.
All right, so give me the rundown on it. What's the aroma for the Lost in the Sauce?
All right, so the Lost in the Sauce. This is the base model beer. It's on about 90% of the time, and the aroma in this is a very punchy. Immediately, it's hop. You get that big hop nose right away. But as you take some sips and you kind of your taste buds and your olfactory get into sync, and you smell it again, it's just very peach, mango, tropical fruit. That's the only way I can describe it. It's subtle, it's soft, and so on the aroma, It's just super soft and pleasant. It's almost like smelling a glass of orange juice. That's how I describe it. It's not, when it's super fresh and you pour a glass of this, you get this burst of, hops, and all those aromas in the air. After it's been on tap for as little as, 3-4 weeks, that kind of subdues a little bit and you get this really soft tropical fruit nose to it.
Gotcha. So I am actually drinking today. I am drinking one that's local because I couldn't get yours because border restrictions and all that fun stuff. I'm drinking Nickelbrook's Wicked Awesome IPA. So this is
Yeah.
their
You've brought me some Nickelbrook beers and they're great.
Yeah, Nickelbrook is one of those breweries that you might not like a style of beer they brew, but they don't brew a bad beer. Very much like you
Yeah.
guys. I mean,
Yep.
Same type of philosophy. They brew beer because it's a passion. It's not about the money making. The money making's great,
Right.
but it's more about the crowds and the passion for beer, which is something that you guys have in common. So
that's awesome. I can't wait to visit them one day.
theirs is not quite as opaque as yours. It is very tropical on the nose. Not a whole lot of hoppiness on the nose. Very tropical,
Okay.
like peachy kind of mango, and then and it's pretty subtle. But I think that comes more from it being a canned beer as opposed to being fresh out the tap.
Right.
So let's talk flavor profile with Lost in the Sauce. What's the flavor profile when you're drinking it? Is it still that same is it still that same
Sorry.
stone fruit flavoring?
Yeah, no, it's the same. And actually, to me, it's like drinking orange juice that doesn't have any acid in it. There's not a hint of bitterness, just very soft and almost sweet. It's well balanced from the hops, so it's not cloyingly sweet like a milkshake IPA. But the best way I can describe it is just pleasant and soft on the tongue. No perceived bitterness at all, and it actually it has a lot of body to it. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah. And I'm having a similar experience with this. So it's a very well-rounded body beer. Um, it's
I'm gonna pull another one too.
uh-oh.
See if you guys can
Get a
get the
live pour.
visual on that.
uh,
Let's see.
for those who might be viewing this video, Mike and I are friends. We've been friends since since 2017, actually, since right after you opened your first
Yeah.
location.
Yep.
And I couldn't think of anyone better to be on the show than a friend of mine who actually is in the beer industry. So that's why I invited Mike to talk to us, and he got to choose the style of beer. So that's why it's Hazy IPAs. So,
Yeah, no, it's fun, man. I appreciate you having me on because um, it's a lot of what we do is trying to evangelize our brand, right?
yeah,
And teach people about what we do and why we do it. And and part of the passion of this business is making a product that we personally love to drink and consume, but people don't always see that firsthand, that passion. I mean, they come here and they may not know me, they may never talk to me, and they order this beer and they love it. um, but like mediums like this and what you're doing is kind of a great mechanism for me to like share to my customers and say, hey, you can hear about why I love this beer and why it's so popular, and hear it right from my mouth. We have so many customers that it's hard to get that direct connection to every single one of them and kind of
right,
talk about that.
right.
Um,
And I can vouch for the fact that I've been to your location on a Friday night, and it's hopping, and it would be awful hard for you to get around and say hi and talk to and discuss things with every single patron. You wouldn't get anything else
yeah,
done if you were doing that.
yeah, I try, but yeah, you're right.
All right. So other than your Lost in the Sauce, what other beers in the same style do you enjoy? So, like,
From well, from time to time, I have, like, my brewers do a lot of traveling and a lot of beer traveling, and I've had a bunch of the Treehouse beers, and they're great. And I don't remember the names of them off the top of my head, but
That's fine.
I had one of my brewers go out to I think Treehouse is in Vermont or Massachusetts, but stopped at Treehouse and picked up, a case of beer, a mixed case of beer, and brought me back a mixed 4-pack. And man, were they were so good. And actually, we compare our hazies to some of the stuff they're doing because, we tried their beers. They were so good. We actually modified our recipes to try to pick up some of the characteristics of their beers. I mean, they're just that good. I mean, I guess I hope they do believe that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, because those beers were fantastic.
Right. So yeah, for me, Nickelbrook makes a great hazy IPA. They actually make a whole line of New England style IPAs, and then there's another brewery that I actually just learned about 2 months ago. That's about an hour from where I live. They're called Stonehooker. They're from I think it's Mississauga, Ontario, which is a suburb of Toronto. And they have a mango IPA that is absolutely fantastic. You would never, I mean, if it didn't say IPA on the can, you would never call it an IPA. I mean, it's
Right.
it's super juicy, super fruity. It's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, like IPAs are not my first choice for beers. I'm the stout porter, Scotch ale, wee heavy. I like the things that ramp more.
Barley wine.
Yeah, more towards the double digits, things that give you a nice punch in the mouth. But on a really hot day, there's nothing wrong with a nice hazy East Coast IPA. So,
no, absolutely.
So that's going to bring us up to the cutoff point for the show today. I'd like to thank you for giving me the time to talk and telling my 3 or 4 viewers that I currently have about your about your fantastic breweries.
Cheers, man. That's awesome.
So for anyone watching, thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this program, please click the subscribe button and click the little bell if you want to be notified when we have new episodes. If you want, leave questions, comments, or suggestions for beers and styles you'd like us to cover. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Rob.